Well guys, welcome back to another video. It's great to be back out today. Excited to share the new location with you. In a beautiful forest this morning. Now listen to that in the treetops above, it's quite special. There's a lot of ravens in this location and they're huge. I'll get some video for you and show you the size of these birds, but the sounds that they're making, I've never experienced it before. The clicking and the squawking and the croaking. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to record some sound for you, so put those headphones on and you can enjoy the ambience of the forest as I make your way down these trails. Now you'll remember in my last video I said I was going to go back to that map, look at the area that I've been allocated to travel, so that's what I've done, and I've travelled this morning to a place called Mission. Now the area that I'm at, I actually came here last week just to have a good look about, see what I could come across, because there's a waterfall that I want to photograph. Now, I wanted to get here super early today because last week I got there a bit late and there was a few people around, so I couldn't get any video done. But it was nice just to check it out, take some photos, just to reference, so I could go back home and have a look at them. It's going to be a blue sky today and it's going to be blue sky tomorrow, so I've got to try and make the best of the morning light before it gets too harsh. It's just nice to be at a different location, it really is. As much as I like Steelhead Falls, it always is nice to get somewhere new. It's a new adventure, somewhere new to explore. So let's see what we can get today. We'll make our way down these trails, see what we can come across today, see if we can make some images. Just excited to be out again, so hope you enjoyed today's video. Well, I've made my way down the trail. I'm a bit further into the forest now and I've came a lot further down, which is great. You'll be able to see we are going to be getting that sunlight in this location very soon. A bit higher up you could just see it was starting to hit the trees and some of the shrubs within the forest itself, but because we came lower down we are in a shaded area here. Now I'm actually at a creek side called Steelhead Creek and I came here last week. Got here a bit later on, so we had some harsh sunlight in here. But I managed to grab an image, so I want to show you that image. Now I did actually take some video of explaining the composition and the image that I took. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head on the trails, make my way down to this waterfall to beat this light, and I'll roll the video from last week. Now, I've came through the trails. Every now and again we get some harsh sunlight coming in, but it's not too bad because it is overcast skies today, so every now and again the light gets diffused. What you find when you're in the forest, when you're dealing with harsh light, it is really hard to come across images because you've got highlights in the trees and on the ferns and everywhere, so it's difficult to come across shots. But there is shots there if you look close enough, and I'm going to be able to show you now. So I've came across this canyon here. It's quite chaotic. There's a lot of deadfall laying in the bottom of it. Been here for about 20 minutes. I had the wide lens on, wasn't really coming across a shot, but when I looked a bit closer in, put the longer focal length on, I found these two logs and I'm really attracted to them. I think they'll make a really nice abstract image. It's in the shaded area of the canyon, so we're not getting any harsh highlights in there. Now what attracted us to these logs was the water that's running down them. They've dropped down and fell into the waterfall here, but they fell on such an angle that the water's travelling down these logs and it's giving it some nice texture, some nice areas of interest with that white water and the dark contrast of the logs themselves. So it is going to be an abstract shot. I'm going to be shooting at f11 with the longer focal length here. I'll just check my focal length. I'm at round about 340 mil, so I've gone in nice and tight. We've got parts of the log that aren't in the water at the top of the frame. We've got the rocks to the side. So I've really gone in tight and discarded any distractions that's in the image. But the images are coming out really nice. Now, I'm not putting a polarizer on. I really like the texture and the highlights that we've got on that log. It really brings it to life. It gives it a lot of contrast between the white and the dark of the logs themselves. So that's a good thing. If you're struggling in an area and you've got the wider focal length on, I had the 24 mil on before, you know, have a look closer in, look at areas of interest and try and pick out images within that scene that you're standing in front of. So I'm going to get on, I'm going to try a variation of shutter speeds, but like I said, I'm at f11, about 330 mil, and we'll see how it turns out. But it's a really nice find. It's a good warm-up for the first shot of the day. We'll venture to the other side of this canyon and see what we can come across. I told you the waterfall was nice. This is actually called Steelhead Falls. Beautiful the way it comes down the mountainside here, just in between the trees and all this lovely foliage, because we're getting the vibrant greens. The spring's well underway now, so we're getting a lot of colour in the forest, and it's tidying the forest up. So this is where I'm going to be taking my first image, and the composition that I'm going to go for is quite simple really. Because we're higher up, I want to actually capture the scene of the full waterfall itself, and I have got some other locations further down into the canyon closer to the waterfall, so we can get variations on these shots. Now, because I'm shooting from higher up and I'm right in front of the waterfall, it's going to come across quite flat, because I've said to you in the past, when you've got a waterfall and it's just got foliage round, it's hard to give it depth. It'd be nice if there was some larger trees and a bit more foreground in this area, but we haven't got any foreground in this area because it's literally just a drop below us there. So how I'm going to get round that with regarding the foreground, I'm actually going to include some of the foliage to frame the bottom of the image. Now, I can imagine in this location, if you had some low cloud, you could include a lot more of the trees above, but because we don't have any atmosphere, any low cloud, it's just going to be harsh highlights because the sun is going to be in here pretty soon. So I'm going to grab this image and then make my way further down into this canyon, see if I can get a different perspective on the waterfall itself. But this is the image I'm going to take for now. Now, I've decided to do it in a portrait orientation. I'm going to do two-shot pano, because what I want to do is I want to make sure that I get at least some of the bottom of the waterfall, so you know where that water's going in amongst this foliage here. Now, the foliage is moving about quite a lot. Because it's new growth, the leaves are really light, so they're moving about with the force of the water coming down this part of the forest here. Now, we don't have any harsh sunlight at the moment, because once the sunlight gets up above those trees, it really does make it quite tricky for shots, and you get a lot of specular highlights on the foliage around the falls itself. So I'm focusing directly on the waterfall itself. I'm not too bothered about the foreground. The foreground there is just literally to frame the waterfall, give it a bit of interest. It'd be nice if there was some larger trees. Like I said before, when you've got some large trees and objects around the waterfall itself, it gives it a bit of depth. but it's still a nice image to take, and I want to capture the full waterfall to show it off. Now I'm getting round about 1/5 of a second, and that's great for the water, you know, it retains that detail in the water. F11. Now I bumped my ISO up a little bit because of that foliage moving, so I'm shooting at 200 ISO. Now I'm not going to use a polarizer for this shot, reason being I want to retain that detail in the water, so gaining that quicker shutter speed is really important. And that was another reason for getting here early. It's nice and shaded, you don't have any glare, any harsh highlights, everything's nice and balanced, so we'll see how we get on. You enjoy the view and I'll make our way down into the canyon. So I'm just on a bit of a viewing platform here, taking a look at the falls from a different angle. I hope you enjoyed the first image. Now I'm going to be heading down into the canyon now. Up above, in the forest above, the sunlight's already there, so luckily because we're in this canyon it's still quite sheltered, giving us time to get down into the canyon and try some images down there. Now I came to this location last week and it was great because I bumped into one of my subscribers, so yet again I bump into a subscriber while I'm out on the trails, and he stopped by to say hello. Just been having a talk with Nick or Glenn. Is it Nikon?
Nikon. Yeah, I don't know who calls it
Nikon Glenn. You can see him on Instagram, he's one of my subscribers, and I bumped into him today here in the forest. So he's way off on the trails, he's going to run ahead and get all the compositions that I'm looking to get.
Yeah, I got to get there first. Bri motivated me to come here today.
There you go, I motivated him to come. It was really nice of him to say that he was inspired to get out with his camera through watching my videos and looking at my images on Instagram as well. So if you haven't checked us out on Instagram, take a look at Bri Photography. You get to see what I'm doing when I'm not taking videos. So I'm going to make my way down into this canyon. I've got a bit of a climb down. It's quite safe, it's quite dry today, so it shouldn't be any problems. So let's get on and see what we can get down there. So you'll be able to see this amazing waterfall behind us. I've climbed down into the canyon there. Now it's really noisy, so I hope you can hear us okay. There's a sheer amount of water that's coming down here, and it is actually creating a bit of a draft, so we're getting quite a lot of movement in the foliage in and around this area. Now because we are in a canyon, that's the reason it's quite loud, because a lot of that water and the sound's echoing, but we'll see how we get on. Now surely you'll agree it's amazing. We've got some lovely boulders with some lovely mosses on, plenty of interest. It's just nice to get up and close, get a different perspective on this waterfall. Now the only problem is it's quite narrow, so it's hard to get away from the waterfall to get a different angle on the image. Now if you get too far to the left, it actually distorts the waterfall and you miss the face of this waterfall. So I want to try and get to the right angle where I can include it all, but also include some of these boulders. It'd be nice if the waterfall led into a river and the river came towards me, but it doesn't. It actually shoots off to the left, so that's why it's quite tricky to get a different perspective on it. Now what was really important, I was saying before about moving about, if you move too far one way, you'll see the gaps behind us where you've got some green mosses and green ferns in amongst the waterfalls. You end up closing those gaps so the waterfall merges into one, So you've got to try and balance it out where you can get some angle on the waterfall itself to create some depth. And these boulders that I've got in the foreground here, that's going to help with that. Whereas up above, we were shooting directly at the scene, so it was a lot flatter. We are going to get some sunlight above pretty soon, so we'll see how it changes as that light changes. Let's see how we get on. Well, I've made it up from the falls. What an amazing morning, what an amazing location. Really enjoyed myself. And how convenient this seat. Someone's provided us with a seat. They've made out the old tree trunk in the forest here. The sunlight's pretty much up now, and like I said earlier, I knew once that sun got into where the waterfall is itself, you're going to get specular highlights on the waterfall, and that's what happened. So I got as many images as I could. I don't know if they've turned out. It is quite a tricky location, like I said earlier, but just nice to go back and nice to get there nice and early. So it's been an absolute fabulous morning, really enjoyed myself, so I hope you have too. We've got a lot of harsh sunlight now. We've got that dreaded blue sky that I don't like, so I have decided to call it an end to the video. Thoroughly enjoyed my time down there at the waterfall today. Just nice to create as many compositions and different angles on the shot as I could and really work the scene. Now, it's probably one of the nicest waterfalls I've been to, but it's also one of the most difficult I've had to photograph because we didn't have a lot of foreground to work with. It was such a tight area, just a tight space to work with, so you really had to think about what you were doing. Now, that was another reason to try and avoid that light, so I didn't have too many problems to work with, and I just had to concentrate on the composition itself. It'd been nice if the river came towards us and you had some boulders and you can create a lot of depth with the waterfall at the other end, but that waterfall isn't like that. It actually just takes off literally to the left as soon as the water gets to the bottom of the waterfall. And I'm looking forward to coming back, because I can imagine when you've got some fog in there, be even better. And autumn time, you maybe get some colour around the falls itself. So it's definitely a waterfall that I'll be returning to many times, and keep scratching my head trying compositions when I'm down there. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, it's much appreciated. Leave a comment below, it's great to read through your comments and see what you think of my images along with my video. If you haven't seen my videos before and you've enjoyed today's content, give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. It'd be much appreciated, and I can't wait to show you more of British Columbia. So from me and Steelhead Falls, until next time, thanks for watching. Bye bye.